We say that the taxes which are paid by the people, they will be converted to something which is of benefit of the Greek people, not that we are just paying the loans, so there's just profiteering banking schemes. We're fighting this corruption system of nepotism and many other things. Tomorrow's government, dear colleagues, will have to tackle the biggest package of assistance which Greece ever received. It has to tackle these privatizations and the use of the property of the Greek people and the funds of the Union. It has to be tackled, and other investments which will arrive. It has to tackle some changes in banks. We, our party, we assumed all the cost to organize correctly this prospect of the economic development. Now, some people will want some government just to serve their interests. It was not fair, this attack I sustained. I believe that we, all the parties which will cooperate, we cannot allow the government to be the government of when we fight for power. It should be government who will be guarantor of the interests of the Greek people, especially in this new historical phase. A new government for the more fair distribution of burdens and riches. Because the opposition party mentioned my father, that he wanted elections. Why I don't ask for election? There was a different historical situation when there was no people's mandate. It's a different situation now. We're talking about the government of cooperation. I want really, in a spirit of change of page, so that we are able to heal these historical events. But again, we should operate for today and for tomorrow, and not for yesterday. We shouldn't defy the fights of yesterday and again fight. We should give the fights of today, of tomorrow, for the citizens, for the country, for justice, which the country which will feel itself proud and with dignity, and this country is worth of it. And now closing, I want to address foreign leaders and our allies, saying that they should have faith in the Greek people. We heard a lot, but this people is created for the difficult. When the time comes, it does what it should do. We united it, may have a gigantic effort, and we stood up to the circumstances. So we have huge opportunities. We'll continue now even more united, and we'll give to our country again the international place which it's worth, and we'll create this very good prospect for each Greek people, for each Greek person. I'm asking for a vote of confidence so that this country has a government able to do what is all the necessary steps, so the country proceeds with security over the next months. I'm asking for the vote of confidence so that to do immediately the necessary discussions for the setting of this government of wider support what the people want and the country needs. The country is above all of us, and I'm sure that united will move forward and will manage to do that.
Right, you've been listening to the Greek Prime Minister George Papandreou there, confirming that the confidence vote is to create a government of wider cooperation, a coalition government. He's said that the leadership will be open to negotiation, and he stressed throughout his speech that the national priority, according to him, was to implement the debt deal, the most recent debt deal that's been done with Europe. And he said that early elections would be a disaster for the country. And he also, during that speech, blamed his predecessors for the mess they're in. He said tragic mistakes were made and now we're paying for those mistakes. So quite a long speech there. Let's bring in Barnaby Phillips, who's on the line from Athens. So Barnaby, it took him a long time to give us the message there.
It did, Lauren, but in the end, I think it reached the kind of conclusion that we were predicting, which is that he believes that a national unity government is the best way forward for Greece. He was very emphatic that new elections at this point in time, when Greece is still trying to negotiate another bailout deal worth more than 100 billion euros, when the country is going hand to mouth, week to week, if you like, requiring new financial injections just to keep going, would be catastrophic, to use his words. Now, the implication, and I have to stress that word, is that he would not necessarily be heading the new national unity government. He would go tomorrow to meet the Greek president here, that symbolic role, and open negotiations about a new government of national unity. He would be going, George Papandreou, as a party leader, the leader of PASOK, and then the negotiations would begin. He was at pains to emphasise throughout his speech that a broader national consensus would be necessary, again by implication, because there are very difficult times ahead. And as we've seen, PASOK, the Socialist Party, are really just limping along with that tiny majority in Parliament. It's not very conducive to stability. If he could bring in other parties and govern with a bigger majority, or a new government would have a bigger majority, that would be better for Greece. Now, what, of course, he did not say, but which a lot of people have been talking about here in Athens, is an unspoken deal behind the scenes. Parts of his own party are in open revolt, Lauren. They've made it clear that they would not be voting in favour of him, voting in favour of giving him confidence tonight if he was to carry on as Prime Minister. So what seems the most likely scenario is that he may win the vote because he has promised not to hang around, if you follow me.
Indeed, and so, I mean, part of that, what I found quite interesting was a lot of kind of blame attached to everyone else in this, and a sort of a big analysis of the history of it, and still defending that idea of a referendum that was so universally panned, especially by European politicians.
Yes, I think, you know, the thrust of the attack throughout the speech was at the main opposition party, New Democracy, and its leader, Antonis Samaras. And you'd have to say that the personal relations between those two men have been disastrous now and have reached vitriolic levels, almost levels of open hatred over the last week. And of course, the rest of Europe has watched all this with dismay. But George Papandreou is taking us a little bit back in history there. He's referring, if you like, to what he would argue was the severely poisoned chalice which he was handed back in October 2009 when he took power, and he suddenly realised, or so he says, that the national deficit was twice as large as had been promised. So what he's trying to point out is, look, I was always onto a losing wicket. It's always been incredibly difficult for me, and I've done my best over the past 2 years to keep this country going.
OK, Barnaby Phillips, thank you very much indeed.